Okay, we'll call a meeting to order. I want to begin by thanking our Francophone community of Maillardville. This past weekend was their annual festival, the largest event in Maillardville, Festival du Bois. And so thanks to all the volunteers, all of the event organizers, and all of the performers and participants and attendees for what I thought was a great festival. Most of council were able to get out to the festival this year again. And so on behalf of us all, merci beaucoup à notre communauté francophone pour le Festival du Bois. As well, tomorrow is International Women's Day, and so those of you who can, I invite you to wear purple and head on out to an International Women's Day event as we all work toward parity, as we all work toward justice in our community. Well done. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our first item this evening is a presentation. It's from the Canadian Cancer Society, Relay for Life. I'd like to invite Brooke Sherwood to come forward.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of City Council. Brian Lee with Brooke Sherwood, and we are pleased to be here this evening. I, as a volunteer with the organizing committee with the Canadian Cancer Society Relay for Life. The Coquitlam Relay for Life is the longest running Relay for Life in Canada, with over $8 million raised to date to support and continue the fight against cancer. We are proud to have been a part of our community as the relay marks 25 years in Coquitlam as the city celebrates its 125th anniversary. We recently kicked off our 25th anniversary by hosting the Relay Reunion at the Evergreen Cultural Center and appreciated having Your Worship speak and presence from Council. The Coquitlam Relay for Life 25th anniversary is pleased to be a Coquitlam 125 sanctioned event as we share and honor 25 years of stories of courage told and stories of hope to be created. We invite the residents of Coquitlam and with Mayor and Council to please join us on Saturday, June the 4th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at Percy Perry Stadium as we celebrate 25 years of the Coquitlam Relay for Life. I would now like to introduce Brooke Sherwood with the Canadian Cancer Society.
Thank you very much. As Brian said, we are very excited about this year at Relay for Life. The Coquitlam Relay for Life is the longest standing relay in the country. It was the first one ever to be operated in Canada. It was Relay for a Friend back then, and is also the largest grossing cumulative relay in the country. The Canadian Cancer Society is very grateful and very thankful for the hospitality that Coquitlam has showed us, as well as the residents and the participants who are predominantly Coquitlam folks. The event has raised, we've just been recalculating a little bit because our databases are, a bit stretched when we start going back that far, and we found that the event has actually raised over $9 million. And so it has had a tremendous impact in the fight for life as we continue to battle this awful disease. We also are very proud of the fact that since the first relay in Coquitlam, the event actually has seen cancer rates have actually increased by 13% in survivor rates for post 5 years. And the event itself has seen over 100,000 participants. So it is a very, very important event to the Canadian Cancer Society and a very, very important event in the fight against cancer. We have lots of great memories here. You're seeing one up there on the screen of participants that have helped us. And there's some more getting their haircut and walking our luminary lap as we remember survivors and honor survivors and remember those that have been lost. So as Brian said, we really are very appreciative and just wanted to say thank you for everything that you guys have helped us with as a society and the impact we've been able to have for people as they are on a cancer journey. So with that, we just wanted to do a presentation of a special silver baton. For those of you that have participated in Relay, you know that the baton symbolizes the teams coming together to support those that are on a cancer journey. And they have to have a participant on the track at all times for the 12 hours, showing their support. And so we have a special commemorative 25th anniversary baton that we would like to present to the city as a token of our appreciation for all of your support. So thank you very much.
Please. Each one of us, of course, is touched by cancer. Every life is in this room has been touched by cancer. My own mother has, we lost my mother for that, and so many of us have lost loved ones and who have loved ones who are struggling with cancer. And so I remember the early days when it was Relay for a Friend, and I ran for friends, friends we lost. And as I said, at the 25th anniversary, on behalf of Council, thank you to the Canadian Cancer Society and to all the volunteers, all the organizers, to the people, the CASAs, and all those who had such vision at the beginning for an event that absolutely has changed lives, has saved lives. And today, the most emotional night you can spend in Coquitlam is that final lap in the dark as the setting sun is joined by the luminaries around the track, luminaries on the track as well, as we remember in complete silence, as the pictures show, those that we don't have anymore. And so I thank you very much for the passion that you deliver into your job. I thank, on behalf of every member of Council, all of those that have been involved for so many years, and I'm so proud that it started here in Coquitlam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second item is our second presentation for this evening, and it involves the Children of the Street Society. I'd like to invite Megan Symington and Kevin Lississon to come forward and present on behalf of Children of the Street Society.
Hello, everybody. Mr. Mayor, council members, I'd like to say thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak here. As you heard, my name is Kevin Lississon.
I'm Megan Symington.
We're from Children of the Street Society. We're an organization that is located just over on Austin Avenue. We've been around for over 20 years, and we are specialists in prevention of sexual exploitation of children and youth. Our vision is to see a world where all children and youth are safe and free from any form of exploitation. And in the past 20 years, that issue itself has changed dramatically. Primarily what we do is we focus in on providing students and youth in this district, as well as throughout the Lower Mainland and the rest of the province, with knowledge about the issue of exploitation in an effort so that they can try and prevent it from happening to themselves and to their friends as well. We've done quite a bit of work in this district, School District 43, as well as others, but just to give you a bit of an idea, our main program, which is TCO squared, taking care of ourselves and taking care of others, we had delivered that workshop in the last school year over 150 times in this district to over 4,000 students. And in this school year, we've done already 77 presentations to just over 2,000 students in this district. One of the other main programs that we provide in this city, as well as the Tri-Cities altogether, is the Youth Art Engagement Project. And we work with high-risk groups of youth for 9 weeks, for a few hours at a time. And we, again, try to give them the tools that they need in order to keep themselves and their friends safe from something like sexual exploitation. We're going to be bringing the project to groups at Caddy, Suwalk School, and the CLC starting at the end of March, running through until the end of school. Last thing we want to mention in terms of one of the main prevention initiatives that we've put out is a new toolkit for parents. This is something that is available free online to download, and we want to get this thing spread out as far wide as possible. It is a comprehensive toolkit for parents if they ever find themselves in a situation where they have a youth or someone that is in their care that may be exhibiting the warning signs of sexual exploitation. This is hopefully something that would be able to help parents, if they're in that situation, answer some of those immediate questions that they most likely will have if they ever do come across one of their child or someone else that they know that is in an exploitative relationship or something of that nature. We just have a quick video that we would like to show you, which can show you more about what we do.
If they can find a young person that's vulnerable, they are going to target them. I lost a daughter over 20 years ago to the streets of Vancouver. At that time, she was 13 years old. Over the last 20 years, Children's Street has done a great job of bringing the issue of sexual exploitation into the forefront. We want this to be an open conversation, that people are comfortable talking about what sexual exploitation is and what can we do as a community to make sure that our children and youth are safe, no matter where they are in our community or online. Our core program is our school-based program, which is TCO squared. We start in grade 4 and we do education around healthy relationships, internet safety, and building empathy among youth. Our facilitators do close to 650 workshops in a school year, from 25,000 to 27,000 youth. We also have the program It Can Happen to Anyone, and that's educating parents and service providers to understand what the trends are and what they can do to support a young person.
It's fun because people are engaged in doing it. Their online prevention strategies and the things that can hit home because it connects that experience that they have in that potential. We need somebody who provides that level of expertise, and that's what the piece does.
I'm pleased to be here with Children of the Street Society. They have, in my estimation, been ahead of the curve in terms of how some communities have responded to these terrible scourges. This is life-saving. I can't be any more emphatic than that in terms of the impact that it will have on young people.
Because it's connected with sex and sexual exploitation, a lot of times those conversations don't happen. By wearing the daisy, you're letting everyone know that you're open to the conversation around sexual exploitation and that your priority is to keep all children in our communities safe.
So as you saw there at the end of the video, Diane made a mention about a new initiative that we launched last March. So it's we're bringing it back again for this March. The coming weeks will be the annual the Prevention of Sexual Exploitation of Children and Youth Awareness Week. And with that, what we're doing is we're asking people to wear a daisy. As you see, I have one here. And we have made these daisies available at a number of different locations throughout the Tri-Cities. And those locations, they are available by a donation. They are listed on our website, so you can find out where those can be found. And we ask that people would wear them for the month of March to show that they stand in the fight against prevention of sexual exploitation. I can see one of the council members here is already donning one. It looks very good on his lapel. So I will just go around now and I will hand one out to each of you. And my colleague Megan is going to speak very briefly.
We just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. I know it's a difficult issue, and over 21 years, Diane's really stepped forward to make some changes in our communities. We have an event that's coming up this Wednesday. We realize it's very short notice, but we are handing out invitations for that, along with the daisies. And our goal is just to reward the community that's also supporting us in our movement to gain exposure to the issue. On this evening, we have a few of the council members that will be joining us, and we hope to hand out the awards and also raise some funds towards our programs that are happening in the school district. So I'd like to thank you again for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight.
Okay, well, thank you very much. When I first heard Diane's story and the story of her daughter, it's hard to feel anything but empathy and the gravity of the situation that families find themselves in, and your work has helped families avoid that as the tragedy that our society needs to talk more about. There's lots of conversations our society needs to have about lots of things, and this is certainly one of them. I thank you very much for bringing it to us.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, before we get onto our council agenda, I just want to let you know Councillor Brent Asmussen was actually here earlier today for all of the meetings. He has become a little bit ill this evening and he's had to step away, but he sends his regrets. Mr. Clerk.
Our next item, item 3, is the minutes of the public hearing held on Monday, February 22nd. Recommendation is to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor O'Neill, second by Councillor Marsden. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 4 is minutes of the regular council meeting held on Monday, February 22nd. Recommendation to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Marsden, second by Councillor Hodge. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 5 is meeting notes of the Coquitlam River Watershed Roundtable meeting held on Wednesday, November 18th. Recommendations that these meeting notes be received.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, second by Councillor Cirillo. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 6 is minutes of the Coquitlam Anniversary Steering Task Force meeting of Tuesday, February 9th. Recommendation to receive.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Wilson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item of business arising out of that committee's meeting concerns their 2016 work plan review and approval. Committee's recommendation is that the 2016 work plan for the Coquitlam 125 Anniversary Steering Task Force as revised be approved by Council.
Moved by Councillor Wilson, second by Councillor Reid. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 7 is fourth and final reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 4577. This pertains to 941 and 945 Stewart Avenue. Staff recommendations that Council give fourth and final reading to City of Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4577.
Moved by Councillor Marsden, second by Councillor Reid. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 8 is fourth and final reading of City of Coquitlam Highway Dedication Cancellation Bylaw number 4653. Staff recommendations that Council give fourth and final reading to Highway Dedication Cancellation Bylaw number 4653.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, second by Councillor O'Neill. And this will provide some property upon which we will be building part of a school, I think. So, all in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 9 is the official community plan amendment bylaw number 4621 and zoning amendment bylaw number 4622 and development permit to facilitate the development of 24 townhouse units at 1120 Falcon and 2565 Runnel Drives. Staff recommendation the Council give fourth and final reading to City of Coquitlam official community plan map amendment bylaw number 4621. Fourth and final reading, City of Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4622, and that Council approve the signing and sealing of the development permit for these two properties, and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to execute it.
Moved by Councillor Marsden, second by Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Towner.
Okay, I just have a question. So this is a townhouse development, and there's going to be 24 units with the garages making up 29 parking spaces, and there's going to be 5 visitor parking spaces. When I drive by that area, there's not a ton of parking on Falcon. There's a lot of no parking signs in that area, and that may change with the development. But my question is, because we've heard from other residents who bought homes in townhouse complexes, who then use their garages for storage, and then park elsewhere, and then come back later complaining that there's not enough parking, is there any way that we can be proactive on this? And could it be put into the strata bylaws or something that the garages are indeed for use by the vehicle? Just so we can prevent what's happened in other townhouse complexes. I think this is a great development. Fits well with the neighborhood, it's good land use, but I'm just questioning the amount of parking or the use that the residents use their garage for parking. If there's anything we can do.
Mr. Johansson.
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Towner. Yeah, that's always a challenge, storage versus parking. We're a little bit limited in terms of what we can do in that case, as our bylaws, cover the parking spaces per unit and that sort of thing. Is there a restrictive covenant approach that we could look at, perhaps? But this is a challenge, and given that it's in the shoulder area of the TDS, the parking variance that is being sought, the location is within 700 meters or less than a 10-minute walk of the SkyTrain. So that's part of the rationale with the parking. And there's also, looking at the site, there will be on-street parking on both sides of Falcon, although we're not supposed to rely on on-street parking, of course. But both sides of Runnel also has almost continuous frontage of on-street parking as well. But again, it's within our TDS shoulder area, and that's part of the rationale. It's within a 10-minute walk or maybe less of the Ioko station.
So it would never be anything the strata would consider kind of enforcing their own parking.
Yeah, fortunately, the development permit only applies to the developer and not to the strata corporation that rests in there.
I thought I would try. Thank
you. Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, thank you very much, and I support this development as well. I think it's long awaited. I know the various people involved in this have been working to get an acceptable development put through, and I'm in favor of this one. I raised a question at an earlier consideration of this about the intersection of Falcon and Runnel, and as a long time, I often used either Falcon or Runnel driving in the neighborhood. I live just up the hill from here, and if one is driving west on Runnel and gets to the stop sign at Falcon, it can sometimes be quite a wait before you can find your way, especially if you want to turn left, that is south on Falcon. And cars are coming southbound on Falcon, and they give the left turners off of Runnel no mercy. And when I raised this point the last time, a resident of the area who happens to be a regular watcher of council came and talked to me after and said, "Right on, that's a big issue." And so I want to know if I thought perhaps a four-way stop would work there at the intersection of Runnel and Lansdowne. It's a full stoplight, four stoplights around. And I'm wondering if traffic engineering has this on its radar in any way, especially with new development being there. The traffic will get a little busier. Whether or not it's something that might be considered for some extra traffic control at that intersection, which is already, I think, in need of some control.
Mr. Diozegi is going to pretend he knows the answer to this. Mr. Diozegi.
Through your worship, I'm trying to fool you a little bit here. So after one of the previous meetings on this topic, I believe the question came up, and we did follow up with the Traffic Operations Division. And the concern I believe I mentioned previously was that this Runnel Drive, Falcon Drive intersection is too close to Barnett Highway. And indeed, unfortunately, that is the case. So we don't see at this point that we would be able to install a traffic signal at that location. As to multi-way stop sign, we don't believe that it meets the warrant. The warrant primarily is based on the traffic volumes, the conflicting traffic volumes, and there should be some sort of a balance between the north-south and the east-west traffic volumes, and I believe that that warrant is not there at this point in time. However, seeing the aerial photograph, there are marked crosswalks, and when pedestrians cross the road, that should provide an opportunity to some of the movements to be done safely. And one other comment, that because the Barnett Highway Falcon Drive intersection is signalized, to a point it should provide a gap in the traffic flow on Falcon, at least northbound, to make safe movements from the cross street. Nevertheless, we will keep this on our radar and see if as volumes will grow, whether it will meet warrants.
Good. Thank you for that. And as I was saying, I understand why it wouldn't need a full traffic lights four-way. It's the four-way stop that I think might work there. But in terms of the distance from Runnel Drive to Barnett Highway as being too short to warrant a four-way traffic lights, it's the same distance, I think, from along Lansdowne from Barnett Highway to Runnel, and yet at Runnel and Lansdowne there is full traffic lights, which does cause some interesting backups now and again. So obviously it's been allowed there, so it shouldn't preclude its consideration at this intersection, but I would agree that's likely not warranted at this intersection. The traffic volumes aren't nearly as high there, but they still can be significant. So thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies to Mr. Giozeghi, because clearly he didn't know the answer to that one. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. The common space at the back, I'm assuming that'll be sort of a lawn, playing space for children. Is that correct?
Up against Runnel is some common space in the...
Yes, through your worship, through to Councillor Wilson, yes, it is correct. It is grass space.
So it'll be grass. It won't be like a hard surface with a basketball net or anything? Or...
No, it would be a soft surface grass.
You know if they'll have a play structure there for the kids?
There's no play structure proposed.
And it will only be grass until right about August, when the crows eat it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? The motion is fourth and final, and a development permit. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 10 is zoning amendment bylaw number 4632. This is for a proposed subdivision at 325 Therrien Street. Staff recommendations that council give first reading to see if Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4632. The bylaw number 4632 be referred to public hearing.
Moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Towner. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Go to public hearing.
Item 11 is zoning amendment bylaw number 4654. This is for a proposed subdivision at 939 Walls Avenue. Staff recommendations that council give first reading to see if Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4654. The bylaw number 4654 be referred to public hearing.
That's moved by Councillor O'Neill, seconded by Councillor Marsden. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Public hearing.
Next item, item 12, is zoning amendment bylaw number 4581. This is for a proposed subdivision at 965 Delestre Avenue. Staff recommendations that council give first reading to see if Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4581 and the bylaw number 4581 be referred to public hearing.
My apologies, excuse me, my apologies. This property is actually right next to a relative of mine, and I'm going to absent myself from consideration of this item as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you. Perhaps just now that Mayor Stewart will start from the beginning. And item 12 pertains to zoning amendment bylaw number 4581 for proposed subdivision at 965 Delestre Avenue. Staff recommendation that council give first reading to see if Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4581 and the bylaw number 4581 be referred to public hearing.
Okay, moved by Councillor Marsden, second by Councillor Towner. Questions? Seeing none. Okay, all in favor? And that's passed.
Thank you very much. I'll just go get Mayor Stewart.
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item, item 13, is a request to rescind first reading to zoning bylaw text amendment bylaw number 4640 to permit liquor manufacturing and revised liquor retailing regulations. Staff recommendations that council rescind first reading to see Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4640.
That's moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Towner to rescind. This flows out of a public hearing and long deliberations by council at a previous meeting at which it was determined, I believe, council was trying to perhaps go in a slightly different direction, and as a result, it would have required another public hearing. Since we can't receive more information about anything after the public hearing until we've either approved the bylaw at fourth reading or rescinded it, this is an opportunity for us to once again speak to the public, speak publicly about the issues associated with this application. And so, I've got Councillor Zarrillo.
Yeah, just thank you very much for that, Mayor Stewart. And I think I just wanted to share that I think one of the obstacles that I ran across was just the way the two were put together, the liquor manufacturing and the liquor retailing. So I'm hoping if we're looking at this again, we might look at it separately. But thank you for that.
Yes, I suspect we all kind of feel that the omnibus didn't quite, wasn't as easy to manage. Any other yes, the pie was too big. We needed to have it separated. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Motion is to rescind first reading. All in favor? Opposed? Rescission is done by unanimously.
Item 14 is the terms of reference for the Parks, Recreation and Culture Senior Services Strategy. Staff recommendations that council approve the terms of reference for the Parks, Recreation and Culture Senior Services Strategy as set out in attachment 1 to the report before you.
Moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Zarrillo. Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. Now, this aimed at 65 plus, and I'm going to be there in a year. And I see that the consultation is focused primarily on late middle-aged and already senior people. Late middle-aged being the Glen Pine and Dogwood people, because you can join those institutions when you're just 50. I think that's late middle age. But I'm wondering, I mean, since we all hope to become 65 and older, and many of us, we all hope to be there eventually, right?
I almost got an objection out of the two members over here.
You don't want to live that long?
Don't consider ourselves.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're not even middle-aged yet. Come on.
Well, do the math. That I'm wondering, and this comes from the same place when several years ago I recommended that for some big planning initiatives that we start to get youth input into neighborhood plans and things like that sort of thing, because they're going to be the people who 10 years from now are living on Burke Mountain, I think I said at the time. So 10 years from now, 40 and 45-year-olds or 55-year-olds, these people are all they're going to be moving into the age group where these are the services that they are going to be hopefully enjoying from the city. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't therefore broaden the consultation a bit to try to reach out into the middle-aged group that aren't technically seniors yet, or even the junior-type seniors that the two pavilions have, junior seniors in the pavilions. So we can get some input from them about the sort of things that they want as they gracefully age. So I would suggest that the consultation is broadened demographically by age. And I wonder if I could get a response from maybe somebody on the managerial side over there. So does that make sense?
I think we had a discussion earlier that silence is either consent or
acquiescence or
no,
dismissal.
I think it was something else.
Yes.
Mr. Alueva.
Someone who's moving quickly into late middle age myself. I think I think we do intend to consult largely the 50 plus, and that's because those would be the true seniors, the true 65 plus in the coming couple decades. That was kind of our focus. I think through that process, I think we can branch out and even to residents potentially slightly younger than that. But the real goal was to try and target the true senior, and that's why we identified 50 plus. But we're open to a little bit around those edges and see what does come out. I mean, it is a good point that we're serving residents, 15, 20 years from now, when we start to design programs and services for seniors. So at this point, we'll do our best we can to try and broaden out within reason to best serve those that cohort.
Good, thank you. That's all I need.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I was just going to provide clarity to that because on page 3 of the report, it does speak specifically that staff had added a note to 4.1 of the terms of reference clarifying the inclusion of the younger age group, but the actual wording refers to them as older adult customers. So I think just substituting the 50 plus for older adult might address exactly what we're trying to achieve. Because again, the report says we were doing it, but the wording was ambiguous as a late middle-aged individual. Thank you.
So you're not an older adult yet. I'm not an older adult. Well, you're not an adult yet. Councillor Zarrillo.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank staff for this because it is a very important portion of our demographics. I know all the consumer companies are going crazy over how to serve this this segment. So I have one comment on the report, but then the rest of my comments are around the terms of reference. The comment on my report is page 4. The paragraph at the top of the page just says that the strategy will not attempt to address wider transportation concerns. And I totally understand that, but I just wanted to ask if we could at least have some questions about it when we go out, just because a shuttle might be necessary. I think, not saying that we would supply it, but I think it's going to be important for us to understand how they're getting to and from things now. And I think it talks about in the report about maybe having senior activities happening, not in necessarily city facilities, but local facilities, which, they're private ones, but that's fine. But I would hate for us not to touch it at all because we need to know how they're getting to and fro. That would be just on the report.
Your Worship, yes, so we would certainly ask questions that around the service and impediments to the service and people accessing our services, and we would highlight those as part of the consultation and results of that consultation, and what we hear from members of the pavilions or anyone in our facilities that have access, for instance, issues. Those would be highlighted. What would likely not occur is that the plan would have a implementation around the broad issue of transportation services generally for seniors in our city. That's something that we would be looking broadly as a larger kind of transportation initiative. Certainly though, if pavilions can benefit from ways to get our residents to and from, that's absolutely something that we'll look at.
That's great. That totally makes sense. What are the barriers to access if it ends up being transportation? That's great. I had quite a few comments on the terms of reference, and I don't usually get too deep into terms of reference, but this one really interests me, because if we have good terms of reference, we'll get good information out of the back end. So I'm kind of where Councillor O'Neill was on just, first of all, he talked about wider consultation, but mine is about aligning the buckets that we're going to start analyzing by. So it says in the first paragraph that this is going to be part of the 2016 55 plus senior games. And I just made a note here on the margin disconnect. We're talking about 65 plus, but it's going to be part of the legacy for the 55 plus. So I think this is a great sentence. I think this is a great place to start. And I would like to see, if possible, a definition, number one, of seniors. What are we defining it as? And I think that could maybe be the 65 plus bucket, but that we would have a group 55 to 65, that we would have a group 65 plus, and that we would benchmark those to all of the over 55s. Now that leaves us out on the 50s to 55, which we know is named our pavilions, but I just think if we try to encompass everything, it's going to be difficult to analyze the data later. I don't know how staff feels about going 55, 65, and then 65 plus to be consistent with our legacy of the 55 plus games.
Your Worship, the study was intended, well, we haven't had a coordinated senior strategy, and because of the 55 plus games, it seemed like a really good opportunity to provide a focus on that year and provide a legacy to that that could serve our 55 plus residents. But clearly, there's a whole host of different definitions as to what it is to be a senior. 50 plus was adopted in our pavilions to facilitate access to relatives or spouses of 65 plus residents. That was always the historical definition. I think we've tried to capture in the background of the terms of reference that there's a whole host of definitions, and we need to figure out what that means, what our focus is. And so there's still lots of discussion to be had with 55, 50 plus residents. Certainly anyone who is part of our program and who takes advantage of our program services in the pavilions should be part of the discussion, because they're very much aware of what's going on. They have family interest there typically, and we get more and more diversity in the use of pavilion programs. So we will certainly take back that question. From our more methodological perspective, 65 plus is really the benchmark. The 50 plus is typically what's allowed in the pavilions as spouses, individuals that can accompany those that are members, so then they become members as well. The 55 plus is more of a provincial definition, so there's multiple layers here, but we'll try to really work all of those together, and I think it is valid to have some different buckets as if these end up being discrete customers. If there's a group of residents that are more of a discrete group, I think we need to figure out what those are. And if they're not, then we need to kind of look at them as a unit. So we'll be looking at that in terms of the services and programs that can be delivered to them.
So I guess that was what I was asking for, I guess, in terms of references, the clear definition of what a senior is, because we talk about it different age groups, like we flip-flop back and forth. So a clear definition of what is the senior. I think I'm hearing you say 65 plus, because that's really where you want this study to go. I was thinking 55 plus to 65 to be consistent with the games, but if 50 to 65 works, that's fine. I just think we need to have it in here so that the consultant knows this is what we're looking for. This group and this group all benchmarked to the whole pot together, so that we can find out what are the different behaviors or attributes.
And our focus, if I can maybe be more clear, and maybe I haven't been, the 65 plus is our focus. That is the group that we're serving. Yeah. We need to understand the 50 to 65, because these are people that are currently using our services in those facilities, but also that will be entering that service cohort, in the coming years. So that is more of looking ahead. But the 65 plus is the focus of this analysis.
So I'd like to see that more clearly, just defined really at the beginning. Number 2, background, first bullet, we talk about a 70% increase in the population of the 65 plus. It would be good to have a forecasted number there so the consultant knows what we're looking at in relation to volumes of people. We don't know if it's a big base or a small base. Then I have, on the last bullet of that section, we talk about seniors being well served by the different kinds of programmings. And I would like us to just, again, identify that the younger ones and the older ones, we used to call these, so older ones and younger ones, how they're differentiating. And number 4, when we talk about trends, issues, and best practices, oh my gosh. Background point, bullet 2, number 4 on attachment 1, considerations versus facilities. The last bullet, the provision of senior services in Coquitlam's northeast sector. And it actually talks about the northeast plan being included in the next page. I think we really need to supply the demographics by neighborhood. I think that it's available through StatsCan, and we want to make sure that we're looking at the neighborhoods where it matters the most. Up in the Northeast plan, is that young children? Is that really about seniors? So develop demographics by neighborhoods, especially around the Northeast. Down at background research, Fraser Health data. I don't see Fraser Health data on the background research, but I do remember in the report talking about the increasing health issues and that sort of thing with seniors. So it would be great to get some Fraser Health data. I don't know what data to get from Fraser Health, but if we're looking to improve the health and wellness of the older population, they might have some insights for us. And again, I just made the note, household survey by neighborhood. I think for background research, if we could supply to the consultant which of our neighborhoods over-index for residents over the age of 65, or the forecast of which of our neighborhoods are going to over-index for residents 65, that's going to be important information when we look at capital investments or programs coming out of facilities. So I don't usually go in terms of reference, but I'm very excited about this study, and I want to make sure that we do have, I know, Mr. Aliweva, you said benchmark at 65, but I'd like the benchmark to be 50 plus, but that we compare it to the 65 plus so we can see where we over-index and under-index for those age groups. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see the outcome of it.
Okay. Just on the last point, unfortunately, we're going to be stuck in a little bit of a time problem because the 2016 Stats Canada census won't be available until after this report is completed, and the 2011 one won't be of much use because in the northeast corner of the city, obviously, we're going to be taking some wild guesses. I think a little bit more than we would in all of the other neighborhoods that are more than 10 years old. But we're trying to figure out if there's data available somewhere. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I want to thank you on page 2 where you brought up the observation that some of the seniors enjoy integrated spaces for the young kids. I have to tell you there's a very successful program at Glen, as I've mentioned to you before, that has kids from Douglas College and some of the high schools taking dance lessons with the seniors, and I just think that's wonderful. I don't know about changing I think the ones you want to count on right now are the 65 and over because that's where the need is. I believe that there is, in some cases, economic insecurity. People not everybody is saved and gone so that they have substantial savings, and there maybe is some economic problems in that age group. Also, years ago when Dogwood came about, even before I came in, and you had to be 50, people at 50 and 60 are still working today. So, we're 10, 15 years out. So it's just a different type of place. And I'm looking forward to this too. And thank you very much. I didn't see Shady Pines, anyone in here. Those in my age group will appreciate that.
Okay, well, I want to thank you too. You threw me off, Councillor Reid.
Shady Pines?
I'm excited about this too. I think we had an attempt a number of years ago to head down a path of being more strategic with our senior population, and we didn't get there, and I'm pleased that we're going to be able to get there now. I've got a couple of comments. The bullet at the top of page 2 of attachment 1, the terms of reference. That bullet reads, while many seniors are well served by the membership model and type of programming offered by traditional standalone seniors pavilions, that would be Glen Pine and Dogwood, adults moving into this age group are choosing instead the sports and recreation complex, community and cultural center, or outdoor spaces as primary places to pursue their recreational activities. And I wondered, it was such a general statement, like they all are, and I wrote down all of them are, because not all of them are. And certainly some of them are when they become eligible for 50. Not all of us did as I did, which was fill out my application when I was 49 so that I could join as soon as I turned 50. But those that do join, eventually they join because there's something there that has captured their interest. And sometimes it's just a place to go for lunch or for coffee. But I want to make sure that we're celebrating the amazing excellence that we've had for many years at Glen Pine and for much longer than that at Dogwood Pavilion. Those are amazing facilities, and as Council has stated repeatedly in other fora, those facilities will stay and will continue to serve the seniors. We're trying to figure out how to manage the evolution of service and perhaps the expansion of service to a broader range. And so I just wanted to make sure we underscored that this statement isn't blanket. Not all people that were born in the 50s are opting for some other direction. Mr. Alaway.
Thank you, Your Worship. We could easily say some adults moving into this group are choosing instead. I think you said it very, very well. The evolution of service in this area is really what we're trying to get a handle on. We do hear from young seniors in their 50s that are saying, well, I'm kind of, I want a different identity in the pavilions. There's others that are very, very happy in the pavilions, and they're really, so there's segments in there evolving that we really want to get a handle on. There's no question that the pavilions have been an incredible service. The boards do a great work with our staff, and there's a huge amount and range of offerings, even low-cost offerings for seniors that really contribute to everything we do. So no question about that. I think this should really say some adults moving in. I think that's very well noted. But really, as we try to find how this is evolving, we want to serve those residents that feel that it is becoming a different place, how we address them and their needs and their identity as a senior, as a young senior. So thank you.
Okay, as a young senior. And I will echo Councillor Reid's comments. Some of the most fascinating programs I've seen are up at Dogwood Pavilion, where the students at Centennial High School across the road, or where at Glen Pine, where a daycare really spends so much time interacting with the seniors on Spirit Square or even inside the pavilion. Those cross-cultural, generational opportunities are really, I think, important. And my last underscore will be about the multicultural realities of our community as more of our seniors are arriving from someplace else. I think the pavilions can be really successful in some instances of reaching out and breaking down the walls of isolation that a senior that has a language barrier or perhaps a cultural barrier from another part of the world can really delve into Canadian life among people his or her own age. And I'm going to give the last word to our soon to be eligible to join Dogwood Pavilion, Councillor Reid.
Still 38. In this process, are you looking at perhaps passes or something, like when we're thinking about the economic diversity that exists? I don't know if that's one, but I'd like to hear what you think about that.
Well, part of the assessment of the service provided right now, it is effectively a low-cost service being provided to seniors in many regards in the pavilions. Yeah. We really have to figure out exactly what is happening with the economics of senior services. We really need to update it, and I'm not sure where that's going to go. But we obviously want, it's a growing seniors population, and we want to continue to serve that population the best we can.
I just wanted you to keep it on the radar.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is the terms of reference. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Next item, item 15, concerns updates to the Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw, including the city's specifications related to roads and utilities and the city's drainage system design criteria. Staff recommendations that council give first, second, and third readings to Save Coquitlam Subdivision and Development Servicing Amendment Bylaw number 4620.
Moved by Councillor Towner, second by Councillor Hodge. Councillor O'Neill.
I just, for some reason, this really captured my attention. I did some research on it, and one of the things was I wanted to make sure we weren't moving into some uncharted territory here. And I found out that the Platinum edition of the MMCD has actually been around since about 2009. And so it's well tested. I think it's into a second iteration right now. So it's a good program that's meeting success wherever it's being picked up. And I guess all the first generation bugs have been worked out, and everything is online now. So I was happy to find that out. So we can support Platinum.
Okay, we often, though, get accused of having gold-plated development standards. So I'm not sure Platinum is the correct correction. Councillor Zerillo.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I just have too technical written at the top of my sheets here. I mean, I don't even know how I would begin. I thank our GM of Engineering for trying to educate me a little bit. I mean, I have some reservations about certain things which I've shared with our GM of Engineering, but I trust that the work behind this is much larger than anything I could learn in the next 5 minutes. The one thing I would want to ask, though, I think this is going to third. It's going to third. Can I make any requests before it comes back to 4? Through the chair.
I'm tempted to say you can make all the requests you want, but there is an opportunity to get more information about specific items after this, and even amend at following third reading adoption. This isn't something that is subject to public hearing, so everything's available. So if there's something you need more information about, please feel free to vote third, and we'll get more information.
Sure. So I'll ask the question just on the page 4. It says impacts to developers and industry. If we could have a title, and it does actually, the last sentence does talk about impacts to our city crews, but it would be good just to have a section there. I believe that the city crews have already been consulted, but I was just wondering if we could have a quick little blurb there. Just make me feel more comfortable as I approve this thing going forward. That would be so awesome. You see where it says impacts to developers and industry? If we could just have another, maybe an expanded paragraph would be wonderful.
Nice. Waiting to see any nod. There's a nod. Okay.
Yes, through your worship, we can certainly nod and respond and expand on that paragraph. But now that I have the opportunity, I really would like to mention a couple of things about this report. The first one is that this is a tremendous amount of work. And the thanks goes primarily to our own Chad Braley, who is the manager of capital projects and inspections. And he spent the last couple of years focusing on this project, and he added up all his hours, and it came to over 300 hours of his time he spent on this. This is very technical, very detail-oriented. And so we brought him here not only to outnumber the planning department staff, but also to answer all those really detailed technical questions I'm sure you will have. He's the guy who actually knows it all. And the process was really interesting because we collected a lot of information from our own workforce, from laborers up to supervisors and then managers. A lot of information from our inspectors. We consulted with other municipalities, and we consolidated all those comments into this document, which is again extremely detailed and very technical. So this is as close as you can ever get to engineering.
Here you go. He's very knowledgeable, but apparently he's not a very fast worker. Okay. I was actually going to acknowledge at some course, and I might as well do it now, because not often do you get to the bottom of a staff report and you see what we see here. If you turn to page 4, this report was prepared by Chad Braley, who is Manager of Capital Projects and Inspections, with input from Mark Zaborniak, who's the Manager of Design and Construction, and was reviewed by Jason Cardoni, Engineering Technologist 3, and Stewart Ross, Assistant Solicitor 1. The assembly and editing of the supplementary specification standard drawings was managed by Chad Braley, Manager of Capital Projects and Inspections, with input from Dana Song, Manager of Utility Programs, Brad Lofgren, Water Superintendent, Jason Cardoni, Engineering Technologist 3, Larry Hovey, who is the Senior Engineering Inspector, Traffic Operations Staff, plus Parks, Recreation, and Culture staff lifted their leg on this as well. So a whole bunch of people have had a tremendous amount of input. I used to do some work in this field, but not as an engineer, but as a complainer about those terrible standards that the engineers put in place. And I've looked through these, and I too am aghast at the amount of effort that has gone, not aghast, but impressed rather, with the amount of effort that's gone on here. And one of the main things we can say to the public is that those people who are concerned about climate change and the impact of an evolving climate and climatic data that no longer mean anything, and predictive models that don't, there are communities in the prairies, for example, who've had 3 200-year floods in the last 10 years. And those are the massive challenges associated with climate change. And these are all taken into account in an extensive piece of work meant to serve our residents for the next generations to come. And I want to take, on behalf of my council colleagues, take our hat off to all of you for that work, assuming it passes. And if not, I guess I won't. So, Chad, thank you very much, and all of your colleagues. I'm kind of in the dark at this moment. Oh, Councillor Reid. Why don't we go to Councillor Reid?
Such a good question. I'd like to spend 300 hours in engineering's office just to understand the report. But I notice on figure 6, you're using, the rainfall reports really interest me, especially because I believe in climate change. So in the Northeast, so the rainfall reports, I assume, are over the whole of Coquitlam. Is that correct? To whomever's answering. Dana?
Mr. Soongs.
Your graphs are all of Coquitlam.
Through your worship, yes, the graph covers all of Coquitlam.
That's all I need to know. Now, why do we have to have settling ponds then in Burke Mountain, but not in Westwood Plateau or in the lower Coquitlam? Or do we have settling ponds in all those areas?
Okay, I guess settlement ponds related to the construction of adjacent parcels. And
well, we have them for storm drain,
Mr. Soong.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, do you mean the water quality ponds that we're building in Northeast Coquitlam?
Yeah.
They're built in Northeast Coquitlam and not other parts of the city because, we did kind of modern stormwater management plans and the consultant and the technology of today is to try to infiltrate as much water into the ground so not as much water kind of runs off and runs off quickly into streams and creeks. So that's why you see them in Northeast Coquitlam, but you don't see them in other parts of Coquitlam. And what we're trying to do in other parts of Coquitlam is encourage especially industrial, commercial, and institutional development to actually develop those facilities on site.
Have the ponds down there too?
No, they'd be using other technologies like tanks or infiltration trenches.
So we'll keep the ponds in Northeast Coquitlam, Burke Mountain, forever?
So we'll continue to use them as construction evolves?
Yes, we will continue to in some fashion, that's correct, in the newer developing areas.
Okay, you can take 15 minutes off my 300 hours. Thank you.
There you go. Anybody else? Seeing none. The motion is an incredible body of work. All in favor?
For that, I'll vote for it.
Opposed? Carried. I said an incredible body of work, Councillor Reid. Mr. Clerk.
Why do you do these things and then flip it to me? Item 16 is the proposed commuter parking near Lafarge Lake Douglas Station. Staff recommendation is that council support further discussions with the province to reach an agreement to provide 150 shared use, long duration paid parking stalls during peak weekday commuter periods on city lands and streets in the vicinity of the Lafarge Lake Douglas Station, and to support presentation of proposed commuter paid parking provisions outlined in this report at the upcoming Engineering Public Works City Centre Public Parking Management Strategy public meeting scheduled for March 10th.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor O'Neill, second by Councillor Towner. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. I think these are good proposals to put before the public. I'd like to see their input. I just want to get a little clarification on the provincial government's plan in connection with the Evergreen line. The new parking spaces that will be provided, that they are saying will be provided near the Coquitlam Central Station. Attachment 1 Attachment 1 is the map of the area, and bullet 2 there says expanded park and ride lot, plus or minus 300 new spaces. I guess the plus or minus means about 300 new spaces. But the first page of the report to us, the second and last line, talks about approximately 400, not approximately 300. And are we missing 100 somewhere along the way on our map 1 attachment? Or how can we explain that differential?
So is it 300 plus or minus 100?
Yeah, exactly. The plus, by the way, the use of the plus and minus this way kind of throws me, because it's not plus or minus 300, it's plus or minus 10 or 20 on a base of 300.
Yes.
Right? Technically, that's the way I always see plus or minus used, but I think you're using it in place of C period, circa something.
Yes, so do you have anything to add to the last?
Through your worship. Yes, so my apologies for the lack of clarity there, but it is, of course, approximately 300 and approximately 700 parking spaces there is what we're trying to communicate. The expanded lot will have about that 300 spaces. It was the previous auto wrecker site. And there's proposed to be some additional parking spaces in the existing park and ride lot. And so that could also have been clarified. So we're adding about 100 spots in the, or the province is adding about 100 spots at the Coquitlam Exchange, and then the 300 additional ones at the auto wrecker.
Oh, okay, I get that now. And I think that expansion of the existing lot will take place in and around where the project office is now, will it not?
Through your worship, again, that's correct. In fact, they've added a great number of these spots already. They were trying to replace some parking that was displaced during construction, and they're just planning on leaving those spaces. So.
And then I guess once the project office is gone, there'll be some more space.
There'll be some more space.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Question is a parking. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Next item, item 17, pertains to City of Coquitlam 2016 Local Improvement Parcel Tax Review Panel. Staff recommendations that Council approve the first sitting of the annual Parcel Tax Review Panel on Tuesday, April 5th at 3 p.m. in City Council chambers. And 2, approve the second sitting of the Parcel Tax Review Panel be held on Wednesday, April 6th in the City Council chambers if required.
Moved by Councillor Morrison, second by Councillor Reid. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 18 is the Metro Vancouver Board and Brief for its meeting of February 26th. Our 2 members are representatives are available to respond to questions, and the staff recommendation that Council receive the brief for information.
Moved by Councillor O'Neill, seconded by Councillor Hodge. Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, thank you very much. So there's a tantalizing one line here about halfway down the first page. The board adopted the Metro Vancouver Regional Parks Plan. And I would think that might have some impact on Coquitlam, so I wondered if there's somebody who could give us a bit of detail about how this will positively or negatively or neutrally impact the city of Coquitlam. Is there anybody?
Anyone say how that will neutrally impact? Speaking about stickler for
throwing that softball that way.
Yes.
Want to go?
Good. Okay, well, thank you. Actually,
Councillor Hodge, yes.
Yes.
There's two of us on the board, and Councillor Hodge is the other one.
And yes, we both sit on the mayor and I sit on Metro, but I also sit on the Regional Parks Committee. And this is a body of work that's been undergone for a couple of years now. It's actually a very significant piece of work because Metro Vancouver operates the regional park system for 22 municipalities, plus an electoral area and a treaty nation. But the regional park system is comprised of 33 sites, including 5 greenways, a couple of ecological conservancy areas, 4 regional park reserves, and 22 parks, and as well as 97 historic buildings. Now, this is of interest to us in Coquitlam because 2 of these parks, regional parks, are right here in Coquitlam, which is Colony Farm and Minnetonka, and of course, in our neighboring community is Belcarra-Sassamat. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is that we also have one of the regions for park reserves, which I refer to them as parks in waiting in our city, and that's the Widgeon Creek Marsh Reserve, which is just north of Colony Farm. It's in Coquitlam. It's 622 acres, which is about 3 times the size of Colony Farm. And so one of the things that this park plan will be addressing is how that area will be opened up in the future. And that's, of course, with Coquitlam growing, particularly in the northeast, that that's an area that I think that will in the future be well utilized. I also just want to recognize that the regional parks, which was formerly known as the GVRD, next year will be celebrating its 50th anniversary, and so I think most people have had a chance to come out to some of these parks. And I just want to, one of the things that I often get asked about is how do regional parks differ from city parks? And one of the things is that regional parks tend to put more emphasis on nature conservation and natural and protecting nature. City parks, as we know, tend to give more active use, more recreational use, sports fields, tot lots, things like that. Whereas you tend to not find those in our regional parks. The report outlines 2 goals here. Which are sort of the key. Included were 8 strategies. The key one being that the Metro is working to secure new land and recognizing that the use of the regional parks is growing. They get about 10 million users a year. And what's interesting is that the number of visitors, the rate of increase in visitors is actually going up greater than the increase in our population, thus a testament to the popularity of our regional parks. And if I may, on one other item that I was going to speak on.
You're on a roll, anyway.
I'm on a roll, but I just want to draw some attention because this is of an interest to our residents. The Greater Vancouver Water District, which the mayor and I sit on. But one of the recommendations that's been approved by the board is during the water shortage last year, if we again come to stage 3, the board wants to allow previously issued local government exemption permits for watering lawn during the nematode treatment. And I know that a lot of our residents who were affected by chafer beetles and wanted to do the watering. Those permits weren't allowed last year, and Metro is going to make that change to allow them this year.
Thank you, Councillor Hodge. I'm so glad I asked the question.
And thank you for asking the questions he didn't ask, answering the questions he didn't ask. Yeah, there is a good amount of work there, and in fact, Metro Vancouver did amend the vote to amend the water restriction at stage 3 for this coming year, because there was a lot of concern about last year with people that had invested in an effort to control nematodes or control chafer beetles, and found their efforts thwarted by the weather that essentially came in and made it so that we had to go to stage 3. That's one change that people will be appreciative of, I suspect. Any other questions related to the board in brief? Seeing none. Why don't we adopt it first? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And then, oh, look, Councillor Towner.
Well, I have one item to finish the meeting with. Many of you may be interested to know that last weekend, Share Family and Community Services held their annual fundraiser. Share operates the food bank amongst other services in our community. And as part of the entertainment this year, 4 mayors, the 3 Tri-City mayors and the mayor from Anmore, participated in a new event, the Hamper Challenge. Each mayor was given a chef and a workstation with fire and cooking instruments and a typical hamper that you would get from a food bank. And they got to pick up spices and a few staples, and they had to create a 2-course meal from a food bank hamper. And there was judges, and they sampled everything. And I'm very proud to tell all of you that Mayor Stewart won with his chickpea and spam succotash dish. So Coquitlam won the first annual hamper challenge at Share.
Okay, wait a minute. It isn't the first annual because it went last year too, but I couldn't make it in last year.
Oh, that's right.
Councillor Reid was our representative and made a schnitzel, I think it was, out of mystery meat or something. And, but it really was a lot of fun, and it does call to attention that there are many in our community who survive and who struggle on a lot less food than you and I get a chance to have in our cupboards, and trying to make a meal out of the food bank, a food bank hamper, is a real challenge, and I credit it all and all of my victory and skill to the fact that I used 3 times as much garlic as the chef suggested, and ta-da.
Can I say one more thing? Just for all the people that are listening at home, I just want to say that this was a hamper that is supposed to last 2 weeks. And
okay, we used it all up.
And it also really showed that no fresh food comes with these hampers, or very little. Sometimes when our community gardens are flourishing in the summer, the recipients get some fresh food, but it really opens up awareness about what recipients do get in these hampers. So, but well done, Mayor Stewart.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of those at Share, and yourself included, all of those that have volunteered over the years at Share, who work at Share, and who contribute to the work that Share does in our community. The vitally important work. Councillor Cirillo.
Yeah, I just thank you for that item, and I just wanted to understand then, are we now having roundtable items from councillors going forward, or is this just a one-off today? Because I know that...
Actually, honestly, I asked her, I put her up to do it because I had a trophy and I didn't want to actually present myself with a trophy, so that was it.
So no roundtable items going forward then, is
if council can consider that, if you like, let's have a discussion about that. Good. Okay, any other items? Seeing none, the motion is to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we will have questions from the audience on any items in tonight's agenda. The little trophy thing wasn't on the agenda, so any other items? Any items on tonight's agenda? Any questions at all? Seeing none, thank you all for coming.